Welcome to the dark side of BEASTwriter. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to be talking and discussing the comments that were made by GM Dave Ziegler, the analysis, the thought process of what he's trying to do here in lovely Las Vegas. And we're also going to talk about Coach McDaniels. Had the opportunity to talk to him on the Zoom call earlier this morning at 7:20 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It was 10:20 over there on the East Coast, but had the opportunity to go ahead and give you guys some insight on Coach McDaniels as this game progresses, as we move on to week 9 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, again, I just want to say, as we continue to grow, we're getting bigger and bigger by the day, guys. Thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to the channel, because without you guys, I keep on saying it, this would not be possible. So thank you so much for doing so. And again, spread the word. Share all the social media outlets that we have here on this platform. I already went ahead and kind of typed some things out for you guys on here on YouTube, and you guys can kind of see the other social media outlets that we're on. Also on YouTube, if you're specifically watching from YouTube, there's a description box below. In all our videos, you will see all our social media posted. So the reason why, or one of the reasons why you want to follow me on all those social media platforms, is because I don't just specifically post on one specific platform. I change it up. And so if you're going to keep up with my fitness gains or the Raiders or whatever the case may be, or have questions, whether it be DMs or comments or whatever the case may be, you guys are going to want to follow me on all those social media platforms. And you guys know the big ones. It's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And that's basically what I call the big four. So I'm on all those social media platforms. And again, if you're watching on YouTube or have yet to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you're going to want to do so. And there's a number of different reasons why. But one reason, and I tell you guys, I give you guys a lot of giveaways. And there's a comment here on to Six Soldier says, Raiders, thoughts on the trade deadline. We're going to go ahead and talk about that. But let me just go ahead and bring this to your attention, because I do run giveaways for all you guys here in the Silver and Black. And we are doing it again. Over the weekend, I went to Summerlin for the very first time. And I was in the area, checked out downtown. It was nice. There was like a parade going on. I don't know what kind of parade it was. A lot of kids, very family oriented. Loved the place. So I saw the store, and it was the Raider Image store. I was like, oh, I didn't know there's a Raider Image store. And so I went inside, and as you can see, I got all this swag here. And well, there's more. And there's actually more on this side too. There's a lot that this whole wall is going to be decked out with silver and black, because I didn't want a plain black wall behind me. I wanted some kind of a backdrop where it looked kind of football related instead of just a black wall, or not a black wall, but a white wall. Anyways, I went to the store and I said, you know what, this is some pretty cool stuff. And I was like, you know what am I going to do for the dark side of BEASTwriter family, right? Because when you guys are here, you're family. And so we are going to be running giveaways. And I told you guys that since day one, all you guys got to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel. So if you're not doing that, do so right now. I know you guys are watching on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, YouTube, whatever the case may be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms. So in order to be entered for this giveaway that we're giving out, look at this. This is swagged out Raider Nation. Y'all see it? This is like the legit. This is not a knockoff, guys, from the Raider Image Team store. Anyways, bought it myself. You see the NFL licensing right there. So this is a cool, thick rally towel. It's good quality stuff. I was actually surprised, because I was like, man, this is usually stuff is like cheap, but I know quality. One, because I'm Bay Area rooted, so I know all about the quality. This is good quality stuff. So I was like, I'm going to get one for myself. I'm also going to give one away for one of my lucky winners in the dark side of BEASTwriter. So be sure to go ahead and do that. And like I said, to be entered, all you got to do is follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I know all you guys aren't on those social media platforms, but if you guys just follow me on even half of those, which is YouTube and Twitter, that'd be more than beneficial, because again, I post up on those social media platforms the most. Just got to keep it 100. And so I do it all for you guys. So again, like I said, man, from all the super chats, super stickers, I like to give back when I can and where I can. So again, this is just something that I like to do because it's fun. It's fun. Phil Romero says, Beast, what's up, man? Looks like Zig is gearing for next year. He is. And there's a lot to discuss, right? And we talked about GM Dave Ziegler. I'm a big fan of GM Dave Ziegler, and there's nothing that is wrong with that. Like, I think when people say GM Dave Ziegler is a bad GM because he didn't do anything to address the offensive line, especially for the right side, I'm like, okay, an empire wasn't built overnight. I mean, I keep pounding the table for this, but an empire wasn't built overnight. And if you look at the parameters of what was realistically out there. And again, we're going to talk about what GM Dave Ziegler talked about today with Raiders beat writers. And so one of the things that he said is, we're not going to, basically what GM Trent Baalke said around this time when I used to cover the Niners, you never want to buy a stock at its high, right? Basically, that's what he's saying, if you read between the lines. And to put it in layman terms, or if you're in the stock market, if you're a financial advisor, whatever the case may be, you never want to buy a stock when at its high. Why? Because it's pointless. Like, you want to buy at its low and then sell when it's high, right? So you want to compromise in a perfect world and meet in the middle. Well, what happens when the trade deadline nears? Well, the asking price goes up, right? Limited supply, high demand, just the way the economy works these days. And so when you look at a guy around the league and you kind of pinpoint a player that you want, like a Jack Conklin, which I said, right? I think Jack Conklin would have been a good bet. Have an expiring contract for Andrew Berry with the Cleveland Browns. But at the end of the day, it probably didn't make much financial sense, because what you're really doing is, what's the long-term game there, right? Are you going to pay this guy 17, 18 million APY? Well, they could have, but they have Chandler Jones, who gets 17 million APY, 3-year, $51 million contract. I'll let your boy. No, in all seriousness, I think GM Dave Ziegler did a nice job, because he didn't make and hit the panic button, right? If you, to be real, I'm just going to keep 100 with you guys. The way the season is going, if you were to ask me if the Raiders are going to make the playoffs, I would say no. All right. And that's just me being honest with you guys. I'm not saying they can't make the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they did make the playoffs. I'm just being realistic with you from a GM perspective, from a scouting perspective, from a coaching, whatever the case may be, from a fan perspective, for all you Raider Nation fans out there. And let's be real about it. Like, do you realistically think the Raiders are going to pull out a playoff berth this year? I mean, realistically, they got handed by the Saints. And it's like, I'm not trying to throw shade or anything. I like the Raiders. I think they're a great team. I think they're trending in the right direction. But to say that they're going to go to the playoffs this year, I think that's fool's gold a little bit, right? I think that's fool's gold. And we got to be honest with ourselves in order for us to be honest when we're talking about the future, right? We have to be honest with ourselves. And so that's why I keep it 100. People say, oh man, like some fans on Twitter, they don't know that I'm coming from the 49ers. So they think I'm new. Nah, man, I've been in the game for freaking 12 years, bro. Like, I've been in this game for a while. And so, but speaking of the Niners, I have all these credentials in here, right? So these are all my credentials, 12 years worth. And I was like, man, I need to put up a backdrop right here with all my credentials. I think that's kind of a cool thing to do. So I kept that. There's a lot more in the shoebox upstairs and in the closet. But I also got the Raider ones now, obviously. So I'm going to have to put those bad boys in there and kind of switch things up, because at the end of the day, man, I need to spice this thing up a little bit. I can't be having a black wall or a white wall. I gotta make it look nice, somewhat nice. But anyways, getting back to it, I keep it 100 with you guys. I tell you straight up how I feel, what I'm seeing, how I'm feeling, and everything in between. And I'm just being 100 with you. I don't think the Raiders are going to make the playoffs. I hope they do, because I do well. When they do well, I do well financially, right? Obviously, if a team's doing bad, no one's going to give a crap because they're losing. Like, let's just be 100 about that. It doesn't matter what sport you cover. Same thing. Could be the Vegas Knights. Doesn't matter. So, yes, of course, I want them to do well. I think they have the talent to be better, obviously, and go on the winning streak. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. The record is what the record indicates, right? So they only won 2 games this year. So that's where we are. And so that's kind of how it goes, right? So let's go ahead and talk about GM Dave Ziegler. All right. And what do you guys think about that cool giveaway that we did? I think that's a cool giveaway. And if you guys are just tuning in, we're going to be running a giveaway for all you guys who follow us. And again, there's 16 of you guys watching. That's not including Twitter, because Twitter doesn't count it. We had over, I don't know, was it 2,000 or something the other day? Anyways, long story short, we have 16 people that I can see right now. But be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms here on YouTube. It's in the description box below if you're watching on the YouTube platform. And be sure to follow me on all those social media platforms. You'll be entered for this Raider Nation giveaway. It's what you see right here. It's a Raider Nation towel. It's very thick. It's not cheap. It's good quality stuff. If I got one, it's good quality stuff. I don't like cheap stuff. I'm not about that life. Just saying. Everyone who knows me knows I'm all about quality over quantity. But yeah, it's a pretty cool swagged out rally towel. And I'm going to give one away for you guys here in the DOB for following me. But there's 16 of you guys right now watching. Give this video a thumbs up. engage with me here on this platform. Again, this is what the DOB is about social media engagement, where it's encouraged. Again, we're all about the good vibes only. I hate the bad. Hate's the strong word, but I hate trolls. I hate those bad vibes, and we don't want that here in the DOB. Listen, we're going to go ahead and talk about GM Dave Ziegler. Let's go ahead and get to that because it's kind of a big deal. So Raiders GM Dave Ziegler talked this earlier this morning, and he kind of shed some light on Josh Jacobs, shed some light on Alex Leatherwood, shed some light on a lot of different factors as to why he made these moves, right? So why did you decline Josh Jacobs' fifth-year option? Why did he do it? And again, it goes back to the Raider way or the Patriot way or the winning ways. They don't really pay their running backs. They can find running backs in the draft, which is why they drafted Zeus White in the fourth. You don't draft Zeus White in the fourth to have him ride the pine. I mean, next year, he could be the featured back. But the way Josh Jacobs is playing, how can you argue and not say he's the MVP of the entire team? He's the MVP. I love Devontae Adams. He's a close 1B. But it's Josh Jacobs. He's the one that makes that engine goes. He's the one that opens up the play action pass and so forth. So especially with that offensive line that's kind of like up and down, right? Let's not get it twisted. So with that being said, Josh Jacobs to me is the team's MVP. And again, we talked about why Josh Jacobs should be resigned because I'm in favor. I'm being a Roll Tide Roll fan, why he should be resigned. But let's be honest about it, right? Like, let's look at the numbers. He averages 96.6 rushing yards per game, which is fourth best in the league. All right, fourth best in the league. He's also fourth best in the league in terms of rushing yards total. So 676 rushing yards. He has 38 first downs, which ranks second in the NFL behind Nick Chubb, who's number one in my grading system for all running backs in the entire NFL. He has 6 rushing touchdowns, which is again tied for fourth best in the NFL with Jalen Hurts from the Philadelphia Eagles. He has 828 scrimmage yards total. All right, 828 scrimmage yards total through 7 games. It's not even half the season yet, guys. It's only through 7 games. He hasn't played week 8, week 9. Technically, it's week 9, but that's the 8th game of the year because they had a bye week. So half the year, he already is surpassing 2,000 yards on pace, right? Do the math. That's crazy. That's like, again, that's like Charlie Gardner numbers. That's like Christian McCaffrey numbers back in the day when he was healthy for a full 16-game schedule. I'm just saying the guy's a beast. Now there's 17 games. You don't think he's going to top 2,000? Of course he is. I think so. Now watch him not do it. No, I'm going to jinx him. No. I'm being serious. Josh Jacobs, the real deal. And that's why he needs to be re-signed. Like, there's no way you cannot re-sign the guy. And GM Dave Ziegler kind of shed some light on that. There was a question asked, like, why did you decline Josh Jacobs' fifth-year option? Was basically what's the thinking behind it? And what are your thoughts on him as the season goes on this year? And he said, you know what? And the funny thing is, I read everything. Like, everything. I retain information like a sponge. Coach Lombardi, Coach McDaniels, and now GM Dave Ziegler, they talked about one thing when it came to Josh Jacobs. All right. And it comes down to quote unquote ball security. Remember when Josh Jacobs was asked, I shouldn't say Josh Jacobs was asked. Well, yeah, Vinny B from obviously Vinny Bonsignore from Vegas Nation Reporter, right? From Las Vegas Regional. He asked Josh Jacobs during the training camp, hey, how do you kind of take your mind off of not being given that fifth-year club option, but then still performing on the field? He's like, you know what? I can only control what I can control. I'll let my game do the talking. The rest will take care of itself. Literally, I put that up on Twitter. If you guys follow me this is why you guys follow me, because I put it up on Twitter. Didn't put it up on Instagram or YouTube. So that's why you guys got to follow me. And then some things I post on YouTube, and you guys get the picture. Put it up there. Got a lot of good interaction. And that was a great question. Here we are at the midway point through the season. Technically, not even the midpoint if you want to get technical. But let's just say midway point. Josh Jacobs is shining. And what I say during training camp, around that time when Vinny B asked him the question, I said, you know what? I won my Aloha kickoff video right before training camp began at the Patriots joint practice. And I said, you know what? Josh Jacobs is going to go off. He's going to go off and have 1,800 scrimmage yards. And he's going to outplay his way in Las Vegas if they opt not to resign him. I'm not saying I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying this guy's going to ball out of control. And you fancy football owners are like, oh man, I'm going to pick him. And you did. And now look at him. He's a beast. He's a beast. And not saying that he's not a beast, or it wasn't a beast before. I'm just saying, based on Coach McDaniel's system, you kind of knew where it was going or it was trending, even with that offensive line. You knew he was going to get 25, 30 touches a game. You just knew it. You knew it. And if you didn't know it, now you know. Here in the DOB, I said since day one that this guy's going to be a monster. Anyways, here he is today. Josh Jacobs is going to be given a big money contract, whether it be in Las Vegas or elsewhere. And again, another beast receipt checks out. And when GM Dave Ziegler talked about it today, when he was asked the question, what's your thoughts on Josh Jacobs? He basically said, from the run game, basically he's doing a good job. We knew he was a good runner. We knew that obviously he can do all these little things. He's good in pass pro, good ball security, so he's improving. GM Dave Ziegler literally said he took the next step. Whatever that step was, from being a Pro Bowl player to that next step of an All-Pro player. Like, how many All-Pro, that to me, if I'm reading between the lines, that's an All-Pro player, right? If you're already a Pro Bowl player and you're taking that next step, like, that's an All-Pro player from a Pro Bowl player. Like, that's just kind of like how I see it, right? And the numbers don't lie. And so when you look at that, you're looking at it with a grain of salt and be like, okay, well, what does that really mean? Took the next step. Dave Ziegler even said, hey, if he continues playing like this, the rest will take care of itself. Literally, he said, if Josh continues, and I quote by GM Dave Ziegler, if Josh continues to do what he's doing, things will take care of themselves. Let me repeat that. If Josh continues to do what he's doing, things will take care of themselves. Now, here's the thing. NFL's a business. If they're playing from behind a lot, they're going to be throwing the ball, so his numbers can kind of deflate. On the flip side of that, if you want to keep it close, if you want to shorten the game, you're going to want to ride Jacobs. And that's what I would do. If you want to win the game, you ride Jacobs. I wouldn't say ride him to the ground, but I'm saying he can handle it. The guy's a monster. He's small. People say he's small. He's not small, all right? He's short, but he's not small. Just like me, I'm short, but I'm not small, right? Same thing applies. Like, we're built like a freaking, I don't know, like a Tonka truck. Oh, man. No, but I love Josh Jacobs. I'm a huge fan of Josh Jacobs, obviously being a Roll Tide Roll fan. I want him resigned. And let's be honest about this. He's a monster on the field. The guy's just a monster. He's a winner. And I think for anyone, you got to look at it. And Christian McCaffrey talked about this, right? You guys know who Christian McCaffrey is, obviously, CMC. He was asked a question by a 49ers beat writer. How do I know this? Because I keep in touch with everyone. But anyways, he was asked, hey, like, what are your thoughts on being traded? He said he has a chip on his shoulder. Who wants to be traded, or who wants to be playing for a team that really had one foot out the door? Like, that is a hard thing to do. But you have to stay professional about it, because if you're a douchebag about it, it's all for naught. People are going to be like, oh, man, you're a douchebag, dude. Like, nah, like, you don't care, blah, blah. And then word gets around, and then no one's going to want to pick you up because you have a bad attitude. You kind of took plays off. I see it when watching the coaches film. Not going to name players. Actually, I'll name some players about that who are doing that, by the way. And I guarantee GMs are pissed off about that. When you watch the coaches film, you can gain a lot of information, all right? If you watch coaches film, if you're watching this coaches film, you can get a lot of information from where the play is not going. Does this guy hustle on the backside pursuit? Does this guy take plays off? If he's not getting the ball, if the ball's not thrown his way, does he run his routes? Does he downfield block for his running back? Is he pouting? How's he come off down the sideline? Is he coachable? Just saying, happens. It happens. My man Dennis says, "Hello, salute beast. What's going on, man? How you doing?" 21 Ravage says, if we do anything good this season, it should be that we beat the Niners. Niners get too much love in that national. You know what? I would love that. And all my Niner fans here in the DOB and supporters and family be like, oh, you're such a traitor. No wonder you're a Raider. And I'm getting on. No, just joking. No, but let's be honest about it. Like, that's going to be a good game on New Year's Day. I can't wait. I'm going to be up there in the press box, obviously having a reunion with the fellow 49ers beat writers who I used to work with over the years. It's going to be good times. Matt Mayoko, Matt Barrows, Jen Lee, Cam Inman. And there's a lot of us that were, during my time in San Francisco, who are now with the Raiders. Paul Gutierrez, PG, Bill Williamson, right? So, and then there's me. Kind of just join the dark side. But no, I think that's going to be a fun game either way. I just hope there's no violence. I don't know. Even as a fan growing up, there's always violence. I cannot say otherwise. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. You guys know how it goes. This is how it goes. Phil Romero says, I'm begging to think this is Carr's last year. I think going to get Garoppolo next year and draft quarterback next year. Yeah, I can see that. SVT Vasquez is in the house. We have Philip Cross says, what's your opinion on possibly drafting a quarterback if we end up with a top 5 pick? I don't think we should go after a quarterback because I think it's easier said than done. And now we have guys like Bryce Young. We all can name drop the quarterbacks who are coming out, but ultimately, and I know this is crazy, but I think you can win with a Derek Carr. Look, I covered Jimmy Garoppolo. I covered Alex Smith. I covered Colin Kaepernick. Look, I think I have a wide range of quarterback knowledge when it comes to deciphering who can actually get things done and who can't. It is frustrating at times, P100. It is frustrating at times, and GM Dave Ziegler talked about it when it came to Derek Carr. It's like, what's your prognosis of, well, not prognosis. What's your analysis of scouting report on Derek Carr? And he says, one thing I like is he's smart. He gets it from the shoulders up, and he's really learning the system and picking up the offense. And look, I talked to a lot of different players. The offense and defensive schemes that Coach McDaniels is implementing, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's very tough. It's like learning a new language. It really is. But again, it takes time. The first year is just a learning curve. The second year, there should be little to no drop off in production. You're not thinking as much. You're just reacting. And I think that's going to be the storyline of the 2023 season. I know we have yet to finish out 2022, but again, this is why you guys follow me. I can already tell you the storyline of 2023. It's more of a read and react, not a read and react style play. It's just more reacting. You're reacting to the play. Boom. You already know where your help's going to be. You already know where people are going to be dropping. So, and then on the flip side of that, your blocking patterns, you already know how that's going to be schemed up because you did it in round one. Round one, I'm meaning first year with Josh McDaniels or Coach McDaniels and GM Dave Ziegler. So again, that's why I'm not like hitting the panic button. That's why I'm not afraid to go on record and say that GM Dave Ziegler is going to be a executive of the year in 2 to 3 years time. That's why I'm not scared to put out my beast receipts that Coach McDaniels is going to be a head coach, or not a head coach, he's a head coach, but head coach of the year candidate in 2 to 3 years time. And people are calling for Coach McDaniels' head. That's like crazy. Like that, to me, that's crazy talk. You take Coach McDaniels out of the equation, and where else are you going to look? Like, you're going to have to start from square one. And for what? Like, let's be honest about this. Let's be honest about it for one thing, for what it is. But if we have a top 5 pick, if the Raiders have a top 5 pick, I would rather them serve and go get an edge rusher like a Will Anderson. Now, people say Will Anderson's going to go number 1, but we all know how this game goes. Every year, there's a GM that kind of trades up for a quarterback because around that time, oh man, this guy, he has an arm. He has a dual threat ability. And then all the compare, this is the next Pat Mahomes. He's the next Lamar Jackson. And here we go. I'll be honest with you, Bryce Young is good. But am I going to call him the next Josh Allen or the next Lamar Jackson? I mean, am I going to go as far to say he's going to be a good quarterback? But that's what I'm saying. Every year we always compare players. Not we, but people in the media always compare players. Oh, Will Anderson, that's the next blah, blah, blah. No, sometimes you just need to stop comparing and just take it for what it is. But I like Will Anderson. I mean, he's been number 1 in my grading system for a very long time. And so played as a true freshman, obviously. But Will Anderson, to me, is one of those guys that he's a game changer. For me, he's tailor-made for a 34 base rather than a 4-3 front. That's just my opinion. I think he'd be perfect for the Las Vegas Raiders and what they're trying to do under Coach Graham's system. Now, they already have Chandler Jones. We're going to talk about that and what GM Dave Ziegler talked about Chandler Jones. But, yeah. That's kind of where this topic of discussion is going. So again, if you guys are watching it, now it went from 18 to 29 people now, and we're 28 minutes in. Give the video a thumbs up. That way it'll show YouTube and show recommended videos to people who share the common interests as you. So if you have shared common interests, odds are, and you like the channel, it's going to help the algorithm and push it to people like you who like the Raider Nation. So if you like the video, you like my silver and black coverage, be sure to go ahead and give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and also share the video on all your social media platforms. And that's how we're going to grow. And people are asking me, how do I support you? And again, some of you guys are not watching on YouTube. I understand that. You guys are on Twitter. You guys are on other social media platforms, Facebook Live. I wish we could do it on Instagram Live, but we can't. Not yet. But we're on LinkedIn now. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitch TV. We're on all these things. What else am I on right now? I'm scrolling through all these freaking banners here. But no, there's a lot of different things that we're on. But give it a thumbs up. Give this video a thumbs up. Please do me a solid. And if you guys also want to, you guys can also support. And if you're watching on YouTube, you guys can obviously do that and send me a super chat or a super sticker. It's a money icon in the chat, and you guys can go ahead and put in whatever you guys want, even if it's 99 cents. A little goes a long way. It really does. So, and all the money goes back into the DOB. So again, if you're just following us right now, again, we run giveaways, and so that's what I like to do. So we're running giveaways for everyone in the DOB. All you have to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and follow us on other social media platforms, which is listed always in the social media link box on YouTube description box below. So a lot of things we can talk in regards to what platform I'm using. But again, follow me on all the social media platforms. You can just Google search it. Now, the funny thing about this, if you guys haven't heard the news, Twitter was just recently bought out by Elon Musk for $44 billion with a B. Now, people are asking me, because I am verified on Twitter, is this the only Twitter account? And yes, that's the one that's verified right now is the only Twitter account that I have. And obviously, I'm pretty sure people are going to make fake ones of me. They always do. And I'm not sure if those guys can get verified using my alias or my name, because that would be like a bad idea and that'd be like a conflict of interest. So that's kind of the things that we're kind of like juggling when we talk to other media members and other people, all their colleagues, is like, wait, if someone takes our name and then can just pay $8 to have a check mark, like what's the whole point of? So the whole reasoning behind what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, this the one that you're following me on right now? That's me. No, I feel like I have to say that on every platform. No, that's not me. Oh, no, that's me. No, that's me. But no, I don't know what's going on. I just know something's going on. It is what it is, and we're just gonna have to go with it. So hopefully everything will be okay. I'm fairly confident that Elon Musk will understand that, and like no one can just be someone who they're not and have a blue check mark, because that's kind of, and it's not for ego or anything like that. It's for our own protection. Like, look, if you follow us on Instagram or follow me on Instagram, you guys would know what happened last year at the Rams game. Someone tried to be me, tried to go on the field and try to be me. And I'm like, nah, man, that's not me. I wasn't at that game. And fans were hitting me up saying, I'm getting comments. And I was like, nah, man, that's not me. I'm telling you, it happens. Go check my Instagram. Go check my Facebook. Go check my Twitter. Someone on Twitter, literally, people make fake ones of me. So if you have a blue check mark nowadays, and you can just buy a blue check mark, what's the, I don't know what the guidelines are for doing so. Is you just pay $8 for a check mark? I don't know. I'm already have the check mark, but I'm just saying, people who don't, how does that work? I'm not so sure how it's going to work. But anyways, that's what. Oh, Dennis says, like that Raider gear on the wall. You know what? That's what I'm trying to do. There's going to be more stuff. Like I said, I have my credentials here. I'm going to put that up once I make a little, I don't know, what do you call it? Like a little collage. Yeah. Yeah, that's how we do it, though. That's how we do it here. All right. So, again, we're talking about GM Dave Ziegler. If you guys are just joining us, we talked a little bit about Josh Jacobs' future, because, again, GM Dave Ziegler literally said this. All right. Let's go back to Josh. He literally said this when it comes to Josh Jacobs' future. All right. And I quote, if Josh continues to do what he's doing, things will take care of themselves. Basically, if Josh continues to play like an all-pro, he's basically saying, how can I not resign this guy? Nah, I'm just joking. I'm putting words in his mouth. I'm not going to do that. But I am saying it is difficult, right? If you're a GM, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you declined his fifth-year option. You're probably shooting yourself in the foot. Like, oh, well, was he worth $10 million? Yes, he was worth $10 million. And then some people are saying, oh, he's not worth $10 million. It's like, nah, man, you take Josh Jacobs out of the equation, and this team would probably not even be in half those games that they were in, even though they lost. Right? It'd probably be a 2-position ball game instead of a 1-position ball game, or even a 3-possession ball game if you think about shortening the game, because you're not going to shorten the game if you can't establish the run. So, and then teams are one-dimensional now, and then they can just pin their ears back and anyways, that an offensive line's not, so that's not their skill set. So just saying. Resign Josh Jacobs. I've been a fan of his since day one. Very professional, both on and off the football field. He embodies what the Raider way is, which is a strong work ethic. I see him in practice every single day, Monday through Friday. The guy works hard. The guy is a hard worker. Teammates have nothing but good things to say with him. And the thing about it is, when you look in that locker room, I step foot inside that Raiders locker room, at Raiders HQ, and I get to interview the players and coaches and so forth. And, one thing I look for is I look for who interacts with who. I think that's a huge indicator of whether or not someone really likes you. Because let's be honest, if you're in any job site, right, no matter where you work, if you're good at your job but no one's talking to you, that probably means you're a DIC, right? Just saying, you're probably a D, right? Like, just saying. But if people are gravitating toward you or actually engage with you, like, oh, this guy's pretty cool, man. Like, I'm just saying. So Josh Jacobs is a team leader in that locker room. I can tell you that right now. And so with Josh Jacobs pulled out of that equation, it's very tough for me to see and have high hopes for that rushing attack. Even though I think Zeus White is going to be, or I should say dominant Zeus White. If you guys know the reasoning why I call him dominant Zeus White, because I asked him to describe his word in one game and he said dominant. So dominant Zeus White, I think he can hold his own. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl back. But at the end of the day, I'm projecting, right? Just like GM Dave Ziegler is projecting. Like, we're just projecting. And again, with this current offensive line, if they don't do anything again in free, which they probably will, I think GM Dave Ziegler understands that. He's going to make some power moves. But look, maybe go out and get Jack Conklin in free agency because he didn't want to give up a high round pick because, again, he talked to all 31 other NFL teams. And when they were on the clock and it was getting near that deadline, he didn't want to give up a high round draft pick. That's exactly what he said. He said, I those high round draft picks, was it worth mortgaging the rest of the season? And then, yada. So might as well just wait. He's playing the waiting game. And I think that's a smart move. You don't want to hit the panic button because let's say the Cleveland Browns or XYZ team was asking for a second round pick. Because we all know the Roquan Smith deal, right? A 2 and a 5 for the Baltimore Ravens, right? And AJ Klein. Okay, cool story. AJ Klein. But that was just more like a buffer for getting a depth player in case a linebacker, a 1-1. Okay, get it. But 2 and a 5 for all pro linebacker, Roquan Smith. So what do you think the asking price would be for an offensive lineman, even if it's a right tackle? On an expiring contract. Remember, Roquan Smith was on an expiring contract. That's why he requested a trade, because Ryan Poles, the GM of the Chicago Bears, the new GM, not Ryan Pace, Ryan Poles, same initials, same first name, coming from the Kansas City Chiefs, said, "Hey, look, we're not gonna pay you, Roquan." Roquan's like, "I want to trade, man." Same thing happened to Akeem Hicks. Where's he off to? See ya, Tampa Bay. Where's Bilal Nichols? Oh, he's here in Vegas. So he's cleaning house. All right, he's cleaning house. Where's Allen Robinson? Oh, he's on the Rams. We got Darnell Mooney. I like Darnell Mooney, by the way. Egalitarian 206 said, "What's up, Beast? What's going on? How you doing?" All right, so we have something else that we want to discuss. And we talked about Alex Leatherwood. All right, GM Dave Ziegler talked about Alex Leatherwood. And again, if you guys are watching right now, there's 31, went from 29 to 31 now. Give this video a thumbs up if you guys like the silver and black content that I'm providing here. That way it'll show YouTube recommended videos to other people like yourselves who share the similar interests as you, which is basically the Raiders and football and fitness. That's what we do in the DOB. But no, Alex Leatherwood, the question was asked, "Hey, GM Dave Ziegler, what is the thought process on getting rid of Alex Leatherwood?" All right. Now, if the question was asked to me, I would tell you straight up, like, you know what? He just wasn't very good. I'm not joking. I wouldn't say that because that would just be media headlines all over. BEASTwriter said Alex Leatherwood was not very good, all in bold print. No, GM Dave Ziegler obviously kept it professional. He said, "Look, doesn't matter your draft status, doesn't matter if you're first round pick, drafted number 17 overall, doesn't matter if you came from Alabama, doesn't matter what your background is. The best 53 are going to make the squad." All right, in a nutshell, that's what he said today. And then the question was asked, "Okay, well, did you see him as a right tackle or offensive tackle, or did you see him? Why not give him a chance at guard?" He's like, "Look, he played guard and tackle, and we just thought it was best to move on." Basically, in a nutshell. And so I thought that was a good answer because he's short, to the point. He's not going to call him out on what he doesn't do. I mean, that'd be horrible if he went out and said, "Yeah, you know what? He sucks at his angle sets. Oh, he can't pass that. Oh, you know what? He can't even anchor. Like, the guy can't even drop. He's not even a knee bender. He's a waist bender." Just saying. But he didn't say that. He was very professional. They said, he got the best 53. He wasn't one of those 53. I like it. Kept it short and simple. So where's Alex Leatherwood? Speaking of the Chicago Bears, see ya, Ryan Poles. And Ryan Poles is obviously a former offensive lineman himself, so he would know talent, you would think, right? No, Ryan Poles is really good. Talked about it earlier when he was brought in from Kansas City Chiefs. I think he was a good signing. But getting back to it, he's off to the Chicago Bears. We don't know how the Chicago Bears are going to be one of those teams that on draft day, Ryan Poles is going to make some moves. Guarantee it. Ryan Poles is going to Justin Fields needs help. All right. Justin Fields needs help. So I know I like Khalil Herbert. I think he's going to be a stud. But again, oh man, the Bears are in trouble. Now Bears fans are going to be, all right. Now let's talk about Chandler Jones, a $17 million man. Chandler Jones signed a 3-year, $51 million contract, $17 million APY this offseason. You guys know where I'm going with this. In my grading system, Chandler Jones, and this is where I guess I disagree with Dave Ziegler, because Dave Ziegler was asked, what are your thoughts on Chandler Jones at the midway point? And he said he's very good at, I'm just going to read it to you guys, just so you guys know, because you guys are probably, he said, from the run game, I think he's done a good job for us. That's what GM Dave Ziegler says. He's from the run game, I think he's done a good job for us. He didn't talk about the pass rush. He said, from the run game, I think he's done a good job for us. I'll get to the pass rush in a little bit. I disagree. In my grading system, when I run the grades on every single snap that Chandler Jones played this year, he's horrible in run fit integrity. Horrible. In fact, let me just run the numbers. I got you guys covered. Again, when I hop on this live stream, you're not following me for the 45 minutes I'm already on. You're following me for the 65, 70 hours of game film throughout the work week that I'm studying. All right. Let me just break it down to you, okay? As I run the grades on the Raiders defense, the entire defense, every single player on that defense, literally, I have the numbers, I have the games, I have the tape. Look, in my DOB grading system, Chandler Jones ranks tied for worst in run fit integrity with 6 missed run fits. 6. You want those games? I can give it to you. He had 2 last game. Tweeted that up there. Who's he tied with? Bilal Nichols. I love Bilal Nichols. I think he's a stud, but he's been kind of tapering off the last 2 to 3 games. And he is tied for worst with Chandler Jones in run fit integrity. Furthermore, let's go ahead and talk about that pass rush. Now, GM Dave Ziegler, and I kind of disagree with GM Dave Ziegler on this, is that he said that Chandler Jones is doing well in the pass rush and that teams are sliding protection his side, and that's creating matchups for other people. I think it's opposite. I think Max Crosby is the one that's being doubled and triple teamed, being chipped at the line of scrimmage. In my grading system, when I watch coaches film, I don't see Chandler Jones being chipped at all. I shouldn't say at all, because that's kind of like an absolute, but not often. Not often. And again, when you run the grades, as I do, look, this is what I have. All right, let's compare his numbers to Cleve Farrell, who's on an expiring contract, first-round pick, drafted number 4 overall back in 2019. And I like Cleve Farrell. I've become a big fan of Cleve Farrell. He's another professional guy, both on and off the football field. But again, I don't think he's going to return because, again, he's not a Ziegler guy, and I can see why Ziegler would move on. If it was me, would I move on? Potentially, yes. Potentially, yes, because you want to see more from a number 4 overall pick. But getting back to Cleve Farrell, right? So let's versus Jonathan Abram. We're going to talk about Jonathan Abram too. Chandler Jones. There's a lot to talk about. It's all in my head. But let's go ahead and talk about Chandler Jones and Cleve Farrell. All right. In my grading system, this is what I have. All right. So if Chandler Jones is tied for worst in run fit integrity, and what does Cleve Farrell stack up? Well, he only has 2 missed run fits. But again, you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's just like when you do the DVOA, right? Defense adjusted value over overration, right? Over average, whatever the case, or over evaluations. I call it DVOV. But when you look at that, when you look at those numbers, it's a little bit inflated because Chandler Jones gets more reps. So again, you have to take the percentage of that and then do the research on that. But when you actually run down numbers for what they are, the true numerical numbers, 6 missed run fits, tied for worst on the team, Chandler Jones, compared to 2 for Cleve Farrell. Now let's look at the pass rush. They both are tied with half a sack for minus 6 yards. And they both combined on that 1 sack. That's why they have the mirror image of sack numbers and tackles for loss in terms of the hidden yardage combined with that. All right, now let's double down on those gains. You see where I'm going with this? Let's go. Chandler Jones, 7 quarterback pressures, which is tops on the team. All right. So excuse me. That's Max Crosby. Chandler Jones has 4 quarterback pressures, which is second on the team. He ranks second on the team behind Max Crosby with quarterback pressures with 4. So he's getting pressure. GM Dave Ziegler ain't lying. But Cleve Farrell has 3 in a smaller sample size to pull from. All right, so he only has 1 less than Chandler Jones does. Quarterback hits. Chandler Jones has 3, which is tied for best on the team with Bilal Nichols, Max Crosby, and of course Chandler Jones. and Cleve Farrell has 1. So there's only 2 off when it comes to Cleve Farrell's numbers. So all in all, and again, the sample size we're pulling from is very small because we're comparing to players currently on the Raiders roster, right? But then again, I run grades on the entire NFL. When you look back, and let's just go ahead and run the grades on other players around the league that get paid less than 17 million APY. I'm not calling out Chandler Jones. I like Chandler Jones too. And I say he's going to have 5-6 sacks in the next 6-7 game span. I already went on record saying it, and I believe that's going to happen. Still think it's going to happen. He already has half a sack. Made me look like a smart man. But let's be honest about it. Is he worth 17 million APY? Heck no. I don't think so. My man Daniel Kim says, my brother, salute, Ryan. I've been waiting for this live all week. Well, here I am, man. I'm glad. And again, you were on Instagram and you were trying to, I was trying to hop on, and I just got so busy watching game film because I didn't want to hop on a live stream and not know what I'm talking about. If people ask questions like, oh, what's your grades on this player? Like, I'm getting questions on Twitter about the 49ers, obviously Aaron Banks and so forth. And my guy, Tony Nagatani's like, hey man, like I want grade. I know you said Aaron Banks was going to be a bad player on your live stream during the draft, and you said we should have gone after Asante Samuel Jr. I said, yeah. And people were laughing at me. Now who's laughing now? Just saying, who's laughing now? Now people, oh man, Beast called it. I just keep it 100. Real time. This is not in hindsight. This is not after rookie year. This is right after they were drafted. I was like, man, Aaron Banks is not a good fit for them, man. He is not a zone blocking guy. He's more tailor-made for a power-based run. Oh, but PFF ranked him as the best pass block. I'm like, I don't care what PFF says. That's why I have my own grades. Jump over to DL. Arizona Cardinals fan says, what is going on with Kyler? He sucks this year. Wow. I don't know. Maybe he's playing too much Call of Duty. I don't know. I always joke around about this, but him watching only 4 hours of game film or being required to watch 4 hours of game film when the guy like me gets paid nada to watch 76 to 80 hours of game film. I'm joking. I'm inflating the numbers a bit. It's 65, 70 hours of game film, sometimes more. It's kind of concerning. Maybe that's why. I don't know. And you can't not blame it on the lack of talent. I mean, Rondale Moore, yeah, he kind of picked it up later on this year. Out of Purdue, right? 2nd round pick. You also got DeAndre Hopkins there. You got Zach Ertz. I mean, there's pieces there. So I don't know what's going on with the Arizona Cardinals. I just think overall they're in trouble because at the end of the day, I don't know. I wouldn't sign a quarterback to a long-term extension if his work habits were less than part-time. Like, it's not even an 8-hour workday mentally. I wonder how I would love to cover Kyler Murray. I'm not saying I'm not throwing shit. It is what it is. It's been reported. I'm just saying, like, how can you succeed only watching 4 hours of game film a week? Not a day. We're not. It's like we're talking about a game. We're talking about practice. No, seriously. In some things, practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes better, right? Like, how can you if you're bad, like let's say you play basketball, and you're right-handed, but you don't have a left hand. If you don't work on your left hand in practice, how are you supposed to get better? Teams will just take your right hand away and then flush you to the left side, and then that will create turnovers because you can't go to your left. Same thing applies in football. Like, if you're not seeing simple cover shells, right? We talk about it with Coach Graham all the time. We talk about it with Coach McDowell's all the time. When I run landscape of the entire NFL on the cover shells and rules of engagement that they have on their specific team, there's a lot of different things you can kind of pick up on. Kyler Murray cannot pick up on those things if you're watching 4 hours of film per week. I'm just saying, because that only gives you time to watch maybe 2 hours of game film. And yet, as the season goes on, there's more of a sample size to pull from. And then teams do a lot of different things. Look, it's not just, for instance, it couldn't just be a cover 3. Oh, well, they were in cover 3 on third and 12, third and long, third and 8 and third and 8 to third and 12. They run a cover 3. Okay. What kind of cover 3 is it? Is it a cover 3 buzz? Is it a cover 3 sky? Is it a cover 3 cloud? And of those moving parts, who's going to be the deep third safety? Who's going to be the deep third boundary quarterback? Because again, that curl flat can come back, and then the boundary quarterback can slip inside. So there's a lot of different rules of engagement based on the team that you're playing. So again, and the down and distance. So you got to be mindful of that. And so that's what I'm saying. Like Kyler Murray, I think it's funny. I'm laughing. Ha ha ha. I honestly think it's hilarious. How can you watch that 4 hours of game film a week and be that good? He's good. He's very talented. Just think if he put in 8 hours a week. I don't know what's going on with it. Phil says, what's about quarterback from Beast Cave is coming along? Oh, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. You like it? I like it. There's more to it. Like I said, there's a lot of cool, and we're doing giveaways. So we're doing the giveaways of this Raider Nation right here, this Raider Nation flag. We're giving that bad boy away. We actually have a brand new one. I'm not gonna give you mine because that'd be kind of weird. Like technically it's used, even though it's not used. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that we can talk about. But no, getting back to it, Chandler Jones, 17 million APY. He's not. I know GM Dave Ziegler said that he's doing well in run fit integrity. I don't see it. Now, I'm not saying that Chandler Jones is a mistake. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he is great for that locker room. But at 17 million APY, I need to see more. And GM Dave Ziegler did admit that. It's like, you know what? We need to see more in the pass rush department. In fact, let me just go ahead and read it for you guys. Because, again, luckily I have the transcript because I'm one of the beat writers. So I get all the information. It's funny how people go on and they act like they're there and they're not. Like, I'm not there. Just FYI, I'm a beat writer, but I'm out there in Sarasota right now. I'm here and stayed back in Henderson because, again, the super chat and super stickers, I'm trying to get on these road trips. But again, it's being self-employed. I have to pay my own way. So those super chat and super stickers help out a lot in doing that and accomplishing that goal. I just want to go to one road game, provide the same information I'm providing you at a home game. I go to all the home games, obviously. Work here right across the street at Raiders HQ. That's why I live here. And chose this location. But at the end of the day, man, like, yeah, man, it's expensive. It's like $1,000 trip. I don't have $1,000 trip every weekend. That's a lot of money. That's, if we go on 2-3 road trips back to back, that's $2,000, $2,500 in the bank. I got that bread. All right, so let's go. Just being 100. Oh, man, like, okay, let me just talk about what GM Dave Ziegler said in the press conference when it comes to Chandler Jones. And again, I think Chandler Jones is a good player. I do. But I don't think he's worth $17 million. Now, again, pass rushers don't go on trees. Chandler Jones is absolutely a monster in the pass rush department. This year has been kind of a catch-22, but you all know where I'm going with this. His consistency is key in the NFL. And again, he'll pick up 4 or 5 sacks in the game and then go ghost for the next 8. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you guys catch my drift. All right. So we talk about Chandler Jones a little bit. I'm just going to read what he said verbatim because I got the transcript and I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from. And then you can formulate your own analysis as to what you think. Because he's getting a lot of heat. Chandler Jones is. He's getting a lot of heat when it comes to Chandler Jones. Right. So let me just go ahead and find it for you. He talked a little bit about Matt Collins as I'm scrolling through here. But he did talk about Coach McDaniels. He thinks he's doing a very good job. But here's the question. What's been your takeaway of Chandler Jones' first 7 games? All right. That was a question by a Raider beat writer. Ziegler responds, I think with Chandler, the one thing that I've seen all start with the run game to the pass game. From the run game, I think he's done a good job for us. I disagree. 6 must run fits in my grading system. Moving on. We wanted to bring in a player with some length that could set the edge of the defense. I get it. I like length. So he has that 35-inch arm length. 35 plus inch arm length that can make plays in the run game that could be on the field for all 3 downs. And I think he's done a good job of that. On the pass rush standpoint, I think he's had games where he's had some disruptive rushes. He didn't say disruptive games. He said disruptive rushes, which shows in my grading system, right? Ranks number 2 in quarterback hits, ranks number 2 in quarterback pressures. So that's true, right? 100%. And affected the quarterback, and we're looking for plays to affect the quarterback. All right. The sack numbers haven't obviously been there, and so more opportunities. We'd like him to finish at the quarterback more. He'd like to finish at the quarterback more. He still garners a lot of attention. There's still a lot of protections that get slid his way. I kind of disagree with that. I think it's getting more slid toward Max Crosby, and he's getting chipped and checked which obviously would open other opportunities for other teammates. All right. So that's basically what he said. And that's basically all he said. And he needs to capitalize, and people need to capitalize on those opportunities. But I'll be honest with you, I don't see it. I don't see Chandler Jones as that guy. I just don't see it. Like, I don't see him being anything special. Like, when they signed him, I didn't like the signing because again, in my grading, I graded Chandler Jones dating back to Arizona Cardinals, and my guy who is in here, Jan Paul Eber de Dios, he's like, hey. I kind of follow you because I kind of say the same things as Arizona Cardinals fans, but no one's reporting that. No Cardinals beat writers. I was like, you know what? I run grades, bro. I run grades on Budda Baker. I run grades on Isaiah Simmons. I run grades on Zaven Collins. Let's go down the list. I run grades. So Grades don't lie, numbers don't lie, and the film obviously does not lie. So whether I'm right or wrong in my analysis, at least I do the work down in the trenches to go ahead and grade the snap. Every single game of every single player from around the league, so you can compare apples to apples. Because again, if you're just watching one specific team from week to week, how do you know if this player is good? The sample size you're pulling from is from the same people you're formulating your analysis the previous week, which is the own team. Like anyone can name drop and play Madden and name drop players off a roster. Cool story, bro. But let's look at the landscape around the entire NFL and do the dirty work and actually take it a step forward and peel back layers of the onion to really get to the core. That's all I got to say about that. I'm just keeping it 100. That's how I like to do my analysis. I have the time. Actually, I don't have the time, but I make the time. All right. And that's why I take my voting rights very seriously as a member of the Pro Football Writers Association. So when the voting rights come out, when we have a vote for first team All-Pro, Rookie of the Year, and so forth, MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, you name it, I'm very, very, very solid in my votes. And that gives me the confidence and the conviction to say, hey, this player is better than this player. Well, how do you know? Well, because I graded the snap. In fact, if you're reading the box score, if you're just being a box, I say don't be a box score reader, but let's say you are one. How are you supposed to formulate analysis from the offensive line? I guarantee it, 9 times out of 10, most people would just be like, oh, Quentin Nelson. Oh, Corey Linsley. Oh, David Bakhtiari. Oh, Trent Williams. Oh, like it's not as easy as that. So like that's all I'm saying. Like I take pride in grading the snap on both sides of the football, kicking game as well, because again, the numbers paint the story, but the film tells the story, right? Like it's a catch-22. Like you cannot just look at the box scores and be like, oh, this guy had a good game. Because let's face it, if Chandler Jones has 5-6 sacks in a game, odds are Max Crosby is the one that's applying the pressure and Chandler Jones is mopping up the sacks. I'm joking a little bit, obviously, but you guys get the picture. SVT Vasquez says he's not going to admit starting Chandler Jones being a mistake. Look, says he's not a waist bender and not a knee bender. Literal pause. We're talking about Alex Leatherwood. It's funny. NorCal Raider Jesse says they should trade Waller, dump Carr, and pay Jacobs. Look, everyone's saying to dump Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr. I'm a huge fan of Derek Carr. I know that sounds crazy, but I am on the Derek Carr. I'm in favor of keeping Derek. I like Derek Carr, but I also like Jarrett Stidham too. Talked to Jarrett Stidham, got to know him a lot. Obviously, I'm a Roll Tide Roll fan. He kind of jokes with me in the locker room because he didn't know that at the time. Now he jokes with me. He says he's going to get me an Auburn beanie. They just fired their coach. But no, I like Jarrett Stidham. I like Derek Carr. I like the backup quarterback room. The quarterback room. I like it. Now, does Derek Carr make some what the F moments? Yes. But if it was easy, I can't say it's easy because it's not. Because if it was easy, I'd be doing it. And it's not. That's why we all can say, oh, he shouldn't be doing this. Oh, what is he doing? It's like, nah, man, if it was easy, then you do it. I mean, let me just put it this way. The defense has a vote too. Because they get paid just like Derek Carr gets paid. So it's just a matter of execution, right? And I know that sounds cliche, but it really is just about execution. And yes, if it's a soft cover 3 shell, you should know that there's 4 underneath defenders, and you should not throw that ball in double coverage because that curl hook defender is obviously waiting for you to throw down the seams. Okay, we saw that. Not going to point out the game, but we saw that. Picked off. All I'm saying is there's things that need to be cleaned up on both sides of the football. And again, I think this team is trending in the right direction. Look, the sky is not falling. I'm just saying the sky is not falling. GM Dave Ziegler is again, top 5 GM. He's going to be executive of the year in 2-3 years time. Already put it out there. Same thing with Coach McDaniels. He's going to be coach of the year in 2-3 years time. This team is fine. You guys got to give it time. Everybody wants those instant gratification that we always talk about instead of the long-term gains. Look, in the stock market, it's all about the long game, not about the instant gratification, not about selling the stock or shorting the stock. It's about the long game. And for the people who play the long game, you're going to look out winners more times than not. So that's all I got to say about that. Now it is frustrating because I know, Raider Nation's been like, oh man, we should have kept Rich Bisaccia and but it is what it is. Coach McDaniels, I thought was a great replacement, and I'm firmly confident that they're going to do well. That's just my opinion. 21 hour says, hey Beast, how do you get bigger calves? I work them out a lot, crazy, but no luck. All chest, no legs for me. Look, you're on the same wavelength as me, my man. Like, I'm telling you right now, I work out my calves now twice a week. It's in my routine. My coach wants me to work out my legs twice a week. Still on the program, not on prep, but I still keep the program. Still kind of stay disciplined with the program that I'm on, even though it's off season for me right now. But in a nutshell, I have chicken legs. Like, I'm just going to point that out. But then again, in men's physique, we don't get judged on our legs, but we still have to have somewhat of a leg game because you kind of look somewhat proportionate, but not too proportionate. If you guys know bodybuilding, you guys know where I'm going with this. It's not classic physique, all right? It's not true bodybuilding. It's more the board shorts, and that's why we wear board shorts and not Speedos. But no, getting back to your question, calf raises is the number one thing that I do. I just hit calf raises like crazy, and you can do some plyometric work. Now, there was a thing called jump soles that I used to use in high school that really built up my calves. And it's funny because my dad has the biggest calves in the world. My dad has tree trunks for calves, and I don't have that. I didn't get those genetics. I wish I did. He's a huge track star. Still holds records at his high school, believe it or not, back in the 70s. Not joking. Still holds those high school records. But yeah, getting back to it. I'm still working on that too, so I don't know. But I can tell you how to get a big upper body. I mean, I can tell you how to get big biceps, big shoulders, big traps, big delts, a wide back. But when it comes to my leg game, I think we should ask Josh Jacobs. And you know what's funny about this is I talked to Amir Abdullah about this now that we're on the subject. Amir Abdullah, Josh Jacobs. Who else do I talk about this? Who else? Oh, Denzel Perryman, Amik Robertson. Those are my guys. We talk workouts and bodybuilding all the time because how did Hronis Grasu, all these guys, right? They just say, hey, what do you do for your this? Like, we just hit chest day? I'm like, nah, man, I actually didn't go to the gym yet. We talk about our what we do for workouts, and it's like, dude, some people like I don't know, like I think it's genetics. A lot of it's genetics, obviously. Because I always ask them, like, what do you do for your calves? Like, what do you do for your legs? Like, oh, obviously squats. You can do a lot of powerlifting, but it also depends on the position you play because you don't want to lose that functional strength and all that contact balance if you're using your core a lot. And so I guess if you were to ask me how to bring up my leg game, I just do leg extensions, leg curls, same thing that all you guys do, hamstring curls. You can do Bulgarian split squats. Again, I'll be posting some of these videos up on YouTube and Twitter and obviously I already post them on Instagram. So that's why I say, if you guys are following me on all the social media platforms, you guys will see all this. So go ahead and do so. If you're not on YouTube and you don't subscribe to YouTube, or if you do subscribe to YouTube, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast. Also, there's 31 of you watching. Give this video a thumbs up so it would recommend videos to others like yourself who love the Raider Nation. And again, if you want to support, you can do that through a super chat or super sticker. But no, I'll be posting workout videos. I was going to do one earlier today. I was unable to do so. One, because I'm not just going to ask around, hey, can you take a video of me, bro? Like, that's kind of like, nah, man. Like, and then if you tell them, well, I get paid for it, then it's like, oh, well, you're conceited. You're this. Is that. But it's kind of a true story. I do get paid for it. So I just don't post it. I'm losing money every time I go to the gym. I should start posting. Daniel Kim says, oh yeah, the waistbender thing. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some of your questions. Phil Romero says, do you think the coaching staff will play Kuntz a little more? Look, I talked to Malcolm Kuntz a lot in that locker room. I like Malcolm Kuntz, coming from Buffalo. Talked about the weather most recently, but he's coming from Buffalo and talked about how it's getting cold here in lovely Las Vegas. But no, he's already used to the weather. Talked to him. I asked him to describe his game in one word. If you guys missed my coach player interviews, oh man, that's on. I know I'm biased, but it's fire. I like it because you get some insights from the perspective of the player. Really get good responses from them, or I feel like I get good responses from them, and they're answering my questions and really truthful and knowledgeable, and you guys learn something from what they're saying. And so I think you guys can appreciate for who they are, not as a football player, but mainly as a person. And there's a humanistic approach to it, in the questions that I'm asking, because at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And so like, I always look at it like this, like, treat others as you would like to be treated, right? And so I try to take that approach every time I step foot in that locker room and respect the player and how, if they're having a bad game, I'm like, oh yeah, you had a really horrible game. Like they already know that. Like if I like, let's say I was in sales, right? Which I was an insurance agent. Let's say I had a bad sales month, and my boss says, you know what, you did really bad in sales, Beast. Like you like that was really, really SHITT, right? Yeah. You don't want to hear it 2,000 times, but then you say, hey, what can you learn from? Like, yeah, okay, you had a bad game, but what's the next process of that? Okay, you're going to dwell on it or you're going to learn from it, right? There's two things you can do. You can learn from your past mistakes or you can dwell on your past mistakes and dig yourself a deeper hole. There's no fine line there between doing what's right and then not doing anything at all. Because if you don't do anything at all, you're going to fall back the learning curve, right? You're going to fall back. You're just digging yourself a deeper hole. So again, there's a learning process involved. And Malcolm Kuntz talked about it. I say, hey, look, how do you stay mentally prepared when you're not active on game days? Literally asked him that. And look, you can go back and check out my player coach interviews inside that locker room when I talked to Malcolm Kuntz. And he said, you know what? Like, yeah, I take those mental reps and, you just got to stay mentally prepared. And these are things that I can do. And I said, okay, well, what is the one thing? If you're described, like I said, Zeus White told me his game is dominant. I said, Malcolm, describe your game in one word. He said ability. He can do a lot of different things, right? So his ability allows him to rush the passer. He can also play good sound and run fit integrity. He says trusting your eyes. That's another thing, right? The coaching staff teaches trusting your eyes. What does that entail? Well, trusting your eyes and technique and being disciplined in what you're seeing, right? Not getting caught out of position. So these are little things that you look for on any given play. And again, when I run my grades, you have to look for those things because if you don't know what to look for, you don't know how to grade. Like I won't know how to grade, right? Like you have to know kind of simple techniques and stuff like that. But no, getting back to Malcolm Kuntz, the more playing time he's getting, the better he's adapting and he's actually applying pressure. Look, we all saw him in the preseason. He was just like Tayshaun Bauer, right? Who was a healthy scratch, right? Like these guys can get to the quarterback. So the question remains to be seen. Are you going to give those reps now that you're at the halfway point to Chandler Jones, who still, by the way, is still generating pressure? He's second on the team in quarterback pressures and quarterback hits. So he's doing a really good job there. But if you're getting paid $17 million APY, that's not good enough. My opinion. And I'm not talking about sacks. I'm talking about pressure rate, right? And I tweeted that out. If you're not getting a high enough pressure rate to value that $17 million APY, let's be honest about that. I know GM Dave Ziegler said that they got him in to be a 3-down player, but he's not good in run fit integrity. I graded him since 2019. In my grades, he's graded average. I mean, that's being nice. Average at best in run fit integrity. Now, I will say that Chandler Jones is doing a better job this year in run fit integrity, right? And if you were to have me rank Chandler Jones on this roster in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if he's a top 5 player on the defense side of the football, well, let's go down the grading system, right? Obviously, Max Crosby's 1. I think he's the most important player on that defense side of the football. Cool story, bro. I think everyone can. Let's be honest about this. If you don't think Max Crosby is the best defensive player on that team, then you shouldn't be covering the team. I'm being serious. That would just blow my mind if someone said, oh no, Max Crosby's not the. I'm like, oh my God. What film are you watching? No. But you look around the league, right? It just looks like a defensive front 7 player. So you have Max Crosby at 1. I really like Divine Diablo. Now I know he's given up a lot in coverage. Look, I run the grades, right? So this is what I have in my grading system, right? Divine Diablo has been targeted 37 times this year. 37 times Divine Diablo has been targeted. One of the most, in fact, let me just run the numbers. Yeah, he's the most targeted defensive front 7 player on that defense. All right, now, again, sample size. Denzel Perryman was out. Jayon Brown has been out. In fact, Jayon Brown probably would have been the most targeted. Jayon Brown is worse than Divine Diablo in terms of coverage. All right, so my grades don't lie. So let's go ahead and talk about the numbers. Divine Diablo, 30 completions. He was targeted 37 times, 30 of those going for completions for 292 passing yards. Gave up 9 first downs, 3 plus 20 big plays, and 4 touchdowns. Now, again, I like Divine Diablo. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl player. And again, the last 3 games, he's doing really well in pass coverage. Now, I will take that back a little bit and say the last game he kind of fell off a little bit because he did give up a touchdown. But At the end of the day, I think Divine Diablo is playing extremely well. GM Dave Ziegler talked about it and the progress that he has shown throughout the season, and I agree with him. In my grading system, I'm seeing growth there. So I like Divine Diablo. And people are saying, oh, Divine Diablo sucks in pass coverage. You know what? Anybody who knows the game of football, I'm just going to break it down to you like this. Divine Diablo does not suck. All right. In fact, he's playing at a starter level in my grading system. Furthermore, if you look at the type of scheme and how Coach Graham's using him, and people are wondering why he's always seemed to be near the football but not making plays on the football at the catch point, is because they run a Tampa cover 2. It's not a straight cover 2. It's a Tampa cover 2. So a lot of times what? And you saw this during the preseason. Again, if you know scheme, if you know how to run grades, you would know this. Like, this is kind of common sense. Look, but Coach Graham is never going to be like, oh, no, like, that's why you have me. Look, Luke Masterson did it in the preseason. Played the Tampa cover 2, and you saw him drop back 10 to 12 yards off the line of scrimmage. You see the same thing with Divine Diablo. So it's not Divine Diablo's fault that the guy's getting open underneath. That's just the nature of the scheme in that Tampa cover 2. So let's not get it twisted. All right. So you have 3 guys playing the curl hook. You have the boundary cornerbacks playing the flats. And you guys know how the Tampa cover 2 is ran. All right. So you have 2 deep safeties playing the deep halves. And then you go from there. And there's different rules of engagement that apply from there on in. But I'm not going to go ahead and break that down. That's too much confusion for the average fan. But I will say this. I will say Divine Diablo is doing a hell of a job. He's doing well in his last 3 games. If you guys watch my live streams, you guys will know that, specifically in pass coverage. Now, he did taper off last game a little bit, but I am a huge fan of Divine Diablo. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl type player in whoever system he's in because he's that talented. And again, you guys got to remember, he's converting from safety to a second level backer. So you're seeing things from a different vantage point. In fact, it's kind of like converting from an outfielder in baseball to a shortstop. The ball's coming at you faster and you have to read and react a little bit faster. So again, there's a learning curve involved, right? So you guys got to take that with a grain of salt. And that's why I think you see with Divine Diablo is you see that learning curve. And so that's why I think Divine Diablo is fine. Now, am I saying that he's going to be like the next, I don't know, the next great linebacker like a Roquan Smith? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is Divine Diablo needs to be cut some slack because he is learning a new position and he's playing very well when you run the grades. Turbo Durant says, hey, what up, BEASTwriter? What's going on, man? How you doing here at the DLB? Thank you for joining us. And again, if you're watching this, give this video a thumbs up. I know you guys have a lot of things that you guys want answered, and go ahead and shoot me those questions. I'm scrolling back through the timeline here. There's a lot of DMs I got on Instagram, here on Twitter, and then also Facebook. The Facebook page is going crazy. Oh no, it's a Facebook group. Chandler Jones says, and Max Crosby are underperforming. Oh, here we go. But Turbo Durant, how are you doing today? Raider says Chandler Jones and Max Crosby are underperforming for the amount of money we are paying. Max Crosby is underperforming. Wow, Max Crosby is graded as the best edge defender in my grading system in the entire NFL. I don't think Max Crosby is underperforming at all. I think Max Crosby is overperforming. I think we should pay Max Crosby more money. He's like TJ Watt status right now. And I would know because I ran TJ Watt numbers because I covered the Pittsburgh Steelers dating back to 2019 for Sports Illustrated. But what do I know? What I do know because I run grades. I'm saying Max Crosby. No, I'm telling you, Max Crosby. Who is saying Max Crosby underperformed? My God, is this for real? I'm just saying this cannot be real. This cannot be real. Oh, look, I didn't even read the second part of that. Say we gave them TJ Watt type money to wreck game plans. That's what TJ Watt does. I didn't even read that second part now that I'm seeing it right now. See, I'm telling you, I run the grade. I'm telling you, it confirm. Max Crosby is having a TJ Watt type of season. I'm telling you right now. I don't know what game film you're watching, man. I respectfully disagree. Respectfully. All right. Daniel Kim says, based on your analysis, how has McDaniels and Graham's adjustments been? Look, it was really bad against the New Orleans Saints. Not going to sugarcoat it. It's really bad, Daniel Kim. But again, if you were to ask me, and I said this, I tweeted this out, and I love Coach Graham. I love this coaching staff. This is not throwing shade on the coaching staff. Look, we all have our bad and good days. Like this live stream, I'm going to have bad and good days. There's some days I like, what the heck is BEASTwriter talking about? Like, is he on one? Like, what's going on with this guy? Like, dude, he sucks today. Like, he's not on his A game like he usually is. We all have our bad games, right? Our bad days. We all have our bad days. So I'm not going to be like, And this is the funny thing about it before we go ahead and get started about the halftime adjustments and so forth. Look, you have to try out something to figure out that it's not going to work. But I'll be honest about this. There's no way that Denzel Perryman should have been locked up in cover one coverage against Alvin Kamara in the flats. Denzel Perryman, coming out of the University of Miami in my grading system, is a 2-down thumper. Now, I love Denzel Perryman. I think he's a hell of a player. In fact, he ranks number 1 on the entire team in tackles for loss and pass coverage. But he is not, that's not his skill set. You want to put players in the best position to make plays from a coaching perspective. Why would you want Alvin Kamara matched up in cover 1 versus Denzel Perryman? That's putting him at a disadvantage. In fact, I'm not saying I like it from a confidence standpoint that you have enough trust in the Denzel Perryman, who also wears a beanie around this time, and putting him on an island like that. But against Alvin Kamara, come on. I just don't see that happening again, because again, what did we see there? We saw him get burned for a touchdown. Is that on Denzel Perryman? Obviously, he's the one in coverage, but I'm not going to pinpoint that on Alvin Kamara, because how many off-ball linebackers can keep up with Alvin Kamara matched up one-on-one? I'm just saying, let's keep it 100. And I tweeted some stuff out there because I run the grades. Fred Warner did it against the Saints, Alvin Kamara. You can see Roquan Smith do it, right, against the best off-ball linebackers, arguably in the entire NFL. You see, look, if you put Alvin Kamara matched up against Bobby Wagner in his prime, I would be okay with that. Borderline okay with that. If you put Alvin Kamara matched up against a Shaquille Leonard, I'd be okay with that. If you match Alvin Kamara against a Fred Warner, I'd be okay with that. Or a Roquan Smith, I'd be okay with that. But if you match up Alvin Kamara against a guy like Pete Warner, or if they were playing on opposite spectrums or opposite teams, obviously on the same team, and they probably go heads up in practice, that's a mismatch. If you put Alvin Kamara matched up against any linebacker, 9 times out of 10, it's a mismatch. And so that's why I thought it was a bad play or bad. I mean, in hindsight, we can say it's bad, right? I mean, because it was bad. In real time, I thought it was a bad decision. And that's why I tweeted it out. I was like, man, this is cover 1. This is not good. In fact, if I was going to pick one player to match up against Alvin Kamara, I still wouldn't do it. But I would say Divine Diablo, because he's a safety and he has the speed to mirror match. And he can kind of, and you saw what happened, right? What happened on that play? That big touchdown that Denzel Perryman got beat on. It was what? Alvin Kamara coming out of the flat and then running a quick slant. And then boom, it's to the house. Tackling on the back end was horrible on that one play. But again, that's a different story. Down kids doesn't look like they're making a lot, but I'm probably wrong. How much does Raider says? How much does Denzel Perryman really weigh? I don't know how much he really weighs. I gotta ask him. He'll tell me. He'll tell me straight up. All right. So let's see what else we got here. My man Dennis says, what's the vibe in the locker room? Do you think JMD lost the locker room? No, I do not. I tweeted this out on Twitter. All the coaches, all the players that I spoke with love Coach McDaniels. There's no ill will toward that. I think everyone's on the same page as far as communication is and as far as what the vision is for the foreseeable 2 to 3 year outlook. And GM Dave Ziegler talked about that vision in that 2 to 3 year outlook. So all horses are trending in the right direction. I like this coaching staff. I'm not going to say I don't like this coaching staff, because I do. And I don't think they lost that locker room. Look, if I was playing for Coach McDaniels, I would love it. To me, you're going to get the best of both worlds. Get someone who's going to be hard on you during practice, right? I like a coach who really gets on my ass. Like, I'm just saying, I like a coach who is really hard on me during practice, Monday through Friday. I like that. I like when a coach says, you know what, you could do better. You could do better, Beast. Like you could do better making that tackle. You can do better in open space. You can do better in your assignment and your, covering the deep half or your deep third, where the case may be. You can be better as a blitzer. All right. You didn't get there fast enough. You got to get to that spot fast enough. What are you doing? So when the game time rolls around, that constructive criticism turns into money, because you're performing and you're performing at a high level. And it's a catch-22 though, right? Because if you're losing like the Raiders are, But let's say, for instance, like they're playing really hard in practice and it's kind of tearing down some guys' bodies, and that's why the injury report gets longer, or the case may be, and they're not winning because winning solves everything. Then I mean, I can kind of see some dysfunction there. But the way it's going, the way I think this team is keyed in, dialed in, I don't see that being an issue. Now, if you were to ask me, is that going to be an issue 2 to 3 weeks from now if they go and lose 2 to 3 games? Hey, the mindset might change. The mindset might change inside that locker room. I'm not so sure, but if I was to take a guess, I would say no, because again, Coach McDaniels didn't go to all those Super Bowls and win all. Yes, they had Tom Brady, but let's be honest, who's dialing up those plays? It wasn't Tom Brady, it was Coach McDaniels. So, I mean, he comes from Bill Belichick, who's the best coach in NFL history. So it doesn't get better than that. And again, you Niner fans know I wanted Coach McDaniels when there was an open. I was so on the Coach McDaniels. I was like the only beat writer that wanted Coach McDaniels. I was like, oh, we need to get Coach McDaniels. You don't want Coach McDaniels. I want Coach McDaniels. Man. Raider says, from your vantage point, what are Sam Webb's strengths and weaknesses? Look, Sam Webb has the length. I like his size. I do like his speed. I do think he can, at the top of his drop, he kind of gets lost at times, but I do like what I see from Sam Webb. I interviewed him earlier in the year. He's a practice squad player, for those who don't know, undrafted rookie free agent, but one of 4 who made the initial 53 roster. But he's a guy who I like. Now, is he going to be a starting caliber player? I'm not so sure. I'll be honest about that. I hope he does well and actually gets an opportunity. But again, when you have guys there already, I mean, you look at that depth chart, there's a reason why he's not playing, right? I mean, you look at guys that they have. Rock Ya-Sin playing at a Pro Bowl level in my grading system. Now, he did give up 4 first downs in the last game against the New Orleans Saints and gave up, I believe it was 53 yards in coverage. But at the end of the day, Rock Ya-Sin still playing a hell of a year. In fact, I believe if I run the numbers, let me go ahead and pull it up here. Yeah, he only gave up 160 yards this entire season, Rock Ya-Sin. In fact, he was targeted 38 times, only 18 of those going for completions. So if you do the legwork on that, and then he only gave up 4 first downs before week 8, which meant only 1 plus big play of 20 plus. I mean, you're looking at a guy who is really playing at a really high level. And people who are, if you don't believe that, you really got to do the legwork on that, because he's having one hell of a season. The guy is having one hell of a season quietly. Same thing with a guy by the name of Trevon Merrick. Now, Trevon Merrick is a guy who's kind of hot and cold this year. I had high hopes for him. I thought he was going to be a Pro Bowl type player, banking on obviously the Raiders having a good season, but no, he had his worst game week 7 versus the Texans, bounced back week 8 for the Saints, graded out at a 9.5, which is the highest defensive grade for the entire game. So Trevon Merrick quietly had a nice game there. And so when you look at Trevon Merrick's numbers, and he's been a little banged up as well, but he's been only targeted 13 times, 8 of those being completed for a total of 92 yards in my grading system. 8 of those completions obviously went for touchdowns. So he does lead the team, or I should say ranks second on the team in terms of pass coverage. When it comes to touchdowns allowed, he gave up 3. So the little something, obviously Travis Kelce had a lot to do with that. But, there's a lot of different things that we can talk about when it comes to Trevon Merrick's game. I like Trevon Merrick. I think he's very smart. And I think another year under the system will do him well. Now, he's a one player that I would say, and I would be quick to point out. And again, I'm looking forward to 2023 because again, everything has to be fluid. So when training camp rolls around, now I have everything ready to go. I'm not scrambling, looking for things to talk about. I already know the storylines that are kind of unfolding as the draft approaches, as free agency comes along. Because again, if you don't do the legwork on possible salary cap casualties, how do you know who's going to become available in free agency, and then who would be a good fit for the Raiders? So again, you have to know the dynamics of the other 31 in order to formulate this analysis in 2023. I like Trevon Merrick, and so does GM Dave Ziegler. You talked about him today. I like Devon Diablo. So does GM Dave Ziegler. I mean, this is all for my grades. I'm looking at it right now. I like Rock Ya-Sin. I like Dylan Parham. I like Hronis Grasu, right? No one's talking about him because no one really talks about the practice squad. I like this practice squad. This practice squad is pretty dialed in. I like Kyle Pico. I like a lot of the Sam Webb. There's a lot of player. Britton Brown. I mean, no one's talking about Britton Brown. He's another running back that was drafted, right? Britton Brown, like him. look, I have high hopes for this team. I'm not saying this team is. People would say this team's a bad team. I think that's the wrong analysis. Just my opinion. But yeah. Yeah, Palomel. Isaiah Palomel. Talk to him every day in the locker room. Right? Every chance I get. We talk about we talk about carne asada fries, coming from SoCal. San Diego State. Obviously, I come from San Diego State, and he's Troy Polamalu's cousin or nephew. But no, we talk about Isaiah Palomel, and again, if you missed that interview that I had with him, he talked about the coaching staff, what he saw from this coaching staff, what he likes about this coaching staff. And again, he's a guy who's really learning the position, whether it be strong safety, free safety, the dual duties of both positions. And also on top of that, he's learning the game. Anytime you come in, whether you be a rookie or undrafted rookie free agent, or if it's your first or second year, and you just get, you're learning a new system. And so I think from a practice squad player's perspective is, look, I may not be active on game days, but what can I do to help this team on Sundays? And so a lot of times they run the scout team, right? Oh, okay, wear a blue non-contact jersey and pretend to be Lamar Jackson or whatever. And so you can kind of pick up on things and be like, man, like that's pretty cool why'd they pick him as I'm watching practice? Why'd they pick him as that guy to be on the scout team running with blah, 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 blah. I posted the guy at the green jersey, right? Number 83. It wasn't Darren Waller. I made a joke about that, but it wasn't Darren Waller. He was out with a hamstring injury that day. But, you kind of pick up on certain things like, hey, who is that? Oh, is that Cole Father? Who is that? And then you can kind of read between the lines there, and connect the dots. But yeah, I like Isaiah Palomel. I like Kyle Pecco. I think these guys, I really, truly believe in the coaching style. And look, it comes down to the personnel, right? It comes down to Lenny McGill, comes down to Sean Herock, comes down to obviously GM Dave Ziegler, comes down to all the guys, Andy Dengler. I mean, we could talk about all the different scouting department guys that they have who are actually doing the legwork. They're all over the country right now scouting players, right? College prospects, undrafted rookie free agents. And that's why they have 8 draft picks. And I went down the rules of the 8 draft picks, and they have 2 fifth-round picks. People tend to forget, but they made a trade for Brian Edwards, and people were saying, oh, Ziegler sucks. He got rid of Brian Edwards. And how's Brian Edwards doing? Last I checked, he had 2 catches for 12 yards. So cool story, bro. And I said, in real time, just like when Aaron Banks was drafted by the Niners, in real time, I said, look, Brian Edwards is good, but he ain't that good. Like, you can find this guy who can run a 7.89 banger, and who they bring in? Matt Collins. Who would you rather have, Matt Collins or Brian Edwards? I'm just saying. Team captain, Matt Collins. All right, Daniel Kim says, if our players were having trouble picking up the system, why don't we implement a slower or put them into schemes where they can play faster and not think so much as the new system is implemented? And this is a catch-22, and this is a very, very good question, by the way. When I coached, I implemented a new system. All right. So I'm just going to put it in layman terms for you guys. So like, let's say, for instance, let's say you're a defensive coach, and let's say you have a 4-3 personnel, but then you want to switch over to a hybrid 3-4, right? And then people say, oh, and Coach Graham can talk about this, 60% of the time you're in nickels, you're in a 4-2-5, or in a 3-35 stack, whatever the case may be, right? So there's different alignments, but the rules of engagement apply, especially down in the trenches. You play a 3 technique, you're going to 1 gap. You play a 4 technique, you're going to 2 gap. All right, you play the nose, you're going to do this, right? So we can go down the list on the different techniques that are being taught. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to having the personnel who can run those techniques. For instance, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, right, that big vaunting defense when they had Ray Lewis, Haloti Ngata, or even go back, Tony Siragusa, Jamie Sharper, right, guys like these, that historic defense that they had. I think they didn't have Samari Roll. He was on Tennessee. Chris McAllister, number 21. Rod Woodson. Anytime you have all these guys on the back end there, and Ed Reed and all these all-star cast of players, and then you try to run, let's say you try to run 4-3. Well, I take that back. They can probably run a 4-3 with that personnel. Let's put it this way. If you have a 4-3 personnel, you try to run a 3-4, it ain't going to work. If you have a 3-4, just try to run a 4-3, it ain't going to work. If you try to run a 4-3 under or 4-3 over based on obviously where the linebackers lined up, in that alignment, whether Mike, Will, and Sam linebacker line up, that's obviously going to be a different type of rules of engagement. So in a nutshell, I think it's hard to coach up a scheme if you don't have the personnel, which is why GM Dave Ziegler did a very good job in getting those players that run the scheme that Coach McDaniels wants. Tyler Lancaster, people forget about him, but he comes from a 34 base, coming from the Green Bay Packers. Gion Brown comes for the 3-4 base as a linebacker, inside linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. Right? You go down the list. Neil Farrell, 3-4 guy coming out of LSU, drafted. Matthew Butler can be a 3-4 guy coming out of Tennessee. Look at what they're doing on that defense, and then you can kind of see the personnel kind of transitioning there. Kyle Pecco, I think, is a 3-4 guy, can two-gap his way where you see fits, and did a really good job during the preseason. The coverage guys on the back end, I mean, that's just coverage, right? Cover shells, pretty self-explanatory. Cover 3, cover 1, cover 2, cover 5, cover 6, cover 7. You can go down the list on all the cover shells, but that's pretty self-explanatory. But you still got to be, then there's different rules of engagement that apply there. Second level backers, again, it comes down to knowing your assignment, right? Whether you're playing the curl hook or the zone assignment, if you're going to take on the flat, if that running back pops out, if it's trips formation to the right, and the route concepts are being applied. If it's a Y stick concept, then you know how to play that route. So there's different, again, rules of engagement. I think what it really comes down to is having the personnel. And I think, again, in year one, it's very difficult to transition to a new scheme when you don't have all the horses who can play those personnel. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that, again, I think year two is going to be the real, how do I say this? The real gauge for me as far as criticizing or praising what they're trying to do. And again, this year, I'm going to give them a pass simply because, again, they're learning a new scheme on both sides of the ball. The players are trying to transition into learning new blocking patterns. The defense is trying to learn the rules of engagement that are being applied by Coach Graham. And you have to be smart. Let me be honest about this. On game days, if you're not smart throughout the week, you're not going to be active on game days. Like, if you don't understand the rules of engagement, you're not going to be active on game days. If you don't know your blocking assignments, if this happens, then what do you do here, or XYZ there? You're not going to be active on game days. So again, I think you have to be very smart, have a good FBI, football intelligence, in order to be even active on game day. So again, in order for these concepts to apply, you have to be very smart. And so that's why you bring in guys like Javin Guidry. That's why you bring in guys who really get it from the shoulders up, like Mateus Farley, right? You bring in these guys, Duron Harmon, right? You bring in guys who actually are smart. Like, these guys aren't dumb. Like, they're pretty bright guys. Like, and you just talk to them, you can just tell they know, they understand what they're doing. Some guys are like, oh yeah, like I'll be honest with you, like, there's some players who are good like that too. Like, I have some friends who are just like, they're not good at during the interview process, but more times than not, if you talk to somebody and they get it from the shoulders up, they're going to be a good football player on Sundays because they understand like football. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. All right. Raider says Max is a good pass rusher, but he consistently fails at setting the edge. Max needs to be a well-rounded player. Look, when running the grades, you have to know, again, the rules of engagement. So based on down and distance, like, let's say it appears on film when watching film or watching the broadcast view that Max Crosby's giving up gap integrity on one end and not being a real anchor in setting the edge, right? Let's say in run fits, right? Let's say it's a zone read or something, and then Kyler Murray leaks outside for a huge run because Max Crosby sells out on the pass rush. Well, what if, based on the rules of engagement, you got to be careful about that, he wasn't told to rush the passer? What if he was told to rush the passer and there was a spy playing that 3 technique as a defensive tackle, and he was supposed to be the spy on Kyler Murray on which way he goes based on the zone read? If, in fact, they don't use a scrape exchange on the outside, taking the guesswork out of it. So again, that's why I'm saying, like, in my grading system, you got to be careful about saying this player is not good at this, or because you have to know the rules of engagement. You really do. And if you don't know it, you have to give that grade a pass on that specific player snap. And I talked about it, and Coach McDaniels talked about it, right? He's like, yeah, these third-party grades are good, but sometimes they don't know what to look for if it's only man, which I kind of agree with. But then obviously, more times than not, if you watch enough film, you can kind of pick up on those rules of engagement. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to Max Crosby, you look at it happens all the time. Look at the top edges. Look at TJ Watt. Look at that you just mentioned earlier. Look at Max Crosby. Look at Von Miller. A lot of the times they look like they're giving up on setting the edge and run fit integrity. But at the end of the day, you can kind of see that linebacker kind of peeking up and kind of I'm just going to put it in layman terms for you. Different teams call it different things. This is a rule of engagement. It's called a gap and replace, meaning if Von Miller gives up that gap assignment, he has someone on the back end to kind of replace that, and everyone shifts one spot over. Kind of in a shell drill playing basketball. Now, again, we can talk about the help and everything in between, but that's on the second and third levels. So, again, you have to know the rules of engagement that apply. And so that's why I think you have to be very cautious when you say someone's not doing something very well, because of the fact that what you see on film or from the broadcast view isn't always what you see and what's being taught or what's being coached up throughout practice. And I think that's why it's good to have me here, because I can tell you what's going on in practice. And that's why I post up those videos for you guys on practice leading up to the games. Brian says, salute, BEASTwriter. In regards to this last game against the Saints, I seen the video that Tim Brown had made, and he stated that something is way off. What do you think he's talking about, bro? Oh, man, I'm not going to. Here's a Notre Dame product right here. Tim Brown, greatest wide receiver in Raiders history. I like Tim Brown, punt returner, kick returner, used him in Madden a lot. Number 81. I think it comes down to, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. I never met Tim Brown, by the way, but it'd be cool to meet him one day. But no, I don't know what he's talking about. But listen, he's a Hall of Famer. I'm a nobody. And so when you talk about Tim Brown and he's saying that something's off, I think specifically, if I had to take a guess, now this is just a simple guess. I didn't know he said that, but if I had to take a guess, I think he's talking about the offense side of the football, and he might be talking about the connection between Derek Carr and the wide receivers. I think that's what he might be talking about when he said something's off, because again, he played wide receiver, so I don't think he'd be talking about the defense. I think he's talking about the offense and the quarterback wide receiver connection there, that rapport. If he is talking about that, I will say this. I will say it does take, again, GM Dave Ziegler talked about this, is it takes all healthy horses to be on the same page at the same time. Like it's just like with the offensive line, right? We saw a game of musical chairs early on. Now we're seeing some continuity in the last 3 to 4 games where you're seeing the run game get established, and now Josh Jacobs is having good success when Alex Barr is being inserted at right guard. All right. Same thing applies. Hunter Renfro's been out. Darren Wall and GM Dave Ziegler talked about it today. Dave Ziegler said that Darren Waller's been out. Hunter Renfro's been out. So you really don't have the continuity there, right? And now you have to roll in Foster Moreau, he's really high on. You talked about him as one player that he's been really impressed with, and I like Foster Moreau. I told you guys in the Aloha kickoff during training camp that I like Foster Moreau. But oh no, he had his chance when Darren Waller was hurt last year and he couldn't catch a cold. I'm like, man, what are we doing? Like, I graded Foster Moreau. He's good. Oh, he's not good. And all of a sudden he's good this year. All of a sudden, right? No, I don't know, Brian. Thank you so much. I'm a hollow for the question. I don't know the exact answer, so I cannot answer that for you. I think that's a better question for Tim. But I will say that if I had to take a guess, it would be on the offensive side of the ball and maybe the quarterback wide receiver dynamic there in their timing. Daniel Kim, I wish that cover one question was asked in Graham's presser today just to get his thought process. I hate generic softball questions. Coach Graham loves my questions. He says he looks forward to my questions, and he loves when I ask questions. Cause I ask those types of questions. I like asking football questions. I like asking, like, I'm that guy, like, hey, like, I was that kid growing up, like, hey mom, why is the sky blue? Hey mom, why is it? It's like, dude, you're annoying. But no, and all joking aside, I like asking football questions, and Coach Graham seems to like those questions. But again, when you ask a certain question, you've got to make sure that the question that you're asking, you're going to get the type of response. For instance, like sometimes it may sound long, but Coach Graham knows where I'm going with it. So that's why he gives me a really long answer. Same thing with Coach McDaniels. And so, again, when you talk about a cover shell, again, there's different rules of engagement. And people talk about different cover shells all the time. And they try to, oh, well, he was supposed to do this. It's like, nah, man, like, how much film have you watched of that team? Like, do you understand, like, tendencies? Do you understand? It's just crazy. I don't know. In my head, I'm saying, I'm not calling people out. I'm just saying, like, how can you talk about something when you, I don't get started. It's just ridiculous. Raider says, what is Rob's responsibility within our organization? Be a beast. Be a beast. I love Rob Ryan. I think he's a good Rob Ryan. Man, he should be a defensive coach, defensive coordinator somewhere. I'm telling you, I like Rob Ryan. Always been a fan of Rob Ryan because I like the name Ryan because my name's right. No. Look, Buddy Ryan, his dad, invented the 46 defense in that bear front, right? We talked about this earlier on live streams, and if you guys want to know what a bear front is, I went ahead and broke that down earlier. You guys can check those live streams out where you just kind of cover up the center and guard rotation. And then also you need strong edge setters that you talk about, Raider, and setting the edge outside and from gap assignments from box to spill. But no, when you talk about Rob Ryan, I don't know his exact, he's a senior, I think his title is senior defensive assistant or something like that. And so I see him on the practice field. I know during training camp, he's working with some of the pass rushers. I don't know exactly what his job entails. We don't get to interview him because he's not a coordinator. So we don't really talk to him. I've never said one word to Rob Ryan at all. Like maybe just a nod here and there when he acknowledges me or acknowledges the media. He'll say, hey, but then other than that, that's it. Like I never once spoken to him at all. Like, because he's not a defensive coordinator or not. So I don't know exactly his job. I do know based on the exact title, he's high up there because he's a senior. I think he's a senior. Don't quote me on this, but I have to look it up in the media book. But I think he's a senior defensive assistant or something like that, or consultant. I don't know, one of those two. There's all these different titles you can use now. It's kind of crazy. What is staff doing to help Neil Farrell Jr. to play with a lower pad level? The LSU Tiger Neil looks out of shape and he got pancaked on Sunday. Look, I know which game you're talking about. I know which player you're talking about when he got pancaked. He's doing well. In fact, even though he got pancaked on that play against the Saints, he didn't miss a run fit integrity because if I remember correctly, I think he was double teamed on that blocked. And that was after the runner made contact past his gap assignment. So again, I think that I can go back and double check on that, but that's from the top of my head when grading the film 2 days ago. Again, this is 2 days ago. That's what I saw. But no, getting back to Neil Farrell, I think he's doing a hell of a job. Andre Carter, who's one of my best friends, coached Neil Farrell over at LSU. And we talked about Neil Farrell once he was drafted and I had a long phone call with my guy AC. And I said, hey, man, like, can you give me the skinny on this guy, man? You coached him at LSU, bro. Like, you got to give me good information, bro. Because I want to report this on the DLB. He says, all right, I'm keeping 100 with you. He calls him a lighter Vince Wilfork. I said, man, are you serious? I literally told him that. And I told Neil this. I said, hey, your coach calls you a lighter than Vince Wilfork. And he's like, yeah, because I watch a lot of game of Vince Wilfork and he played with Vince Wilfork and he sees something, right? So like, I was like, Dre, are you serious? He's a lighter Vince. He's like, nah, man, he's a lighter. I was like, okay. So I'm gonna talk to Neil. He's like, okay. Talked to Neil in the Raiders locker room, told him that coach called him a lighter Vince Wilfork. He kind of laughed and smiled. And I said, who you mold your game after? He's like, yeah, Vince Wilfork's one of those guys. Coach Carter did talk to him about this on playing with being a knee bender, not a waist bender. And that's not something that's a secret. That's something that he needs to work on. We saw the play that you're talking about. He did get kind of out leveraged there and he need to do a better job of holding his grasp. But at the end of the day, again, that's just one play. And again, in my grading system, Neil Farrell graded very high. He graded at a 9 out of 10. Again, small sample size to pull from because we're not grading the pass rush here. But again, he was very sound in his run fit integrity, and I thought he did a really good job. I would like to see, and again, we saw in the last 2 weeks that Neil Farrell has been rotated early on and talk as opposed to the previous 5 games of the season. And Again, I would like to see Matthew Butler into that rotation to kind of see where we're at, because it's really hard, especially with the sample size that we're pulling from, to really have a conviction, say Neil Farrell sucks or Neil Farrell is going to be really good. We really don't know. So I'm not going to say one way or another. I did already go on record when I ran the grades at LSU, when I ran the grades on Zeus White, when I ran the grades on Dylan Parham. And again, you guys can see all those videos that I posted on the Raiders draft grade here in the DOB, but I talked about Neil Farrell. I talked about Matthew Butler. I talked about all these different guys that they got, Thayer Munford, Big Ten, Ohio State guys. So, I like this draft class a lot. And I think this draft class in 2 or 3 years' time is going to be one of those draft classes that we look back and say, damn, that was one hell of a draft class. I really firmly believe that, because I can see them. And again, it's hard for you guys to understand this, because you obviously, and I wouldn't expect you, because you guys aren't inside that locker room Monday through Friday, but I am. And so I can tell you they're very professional, they're very smart, and they understand what needs to get done. It would be another story, and I'm not going to name players in the past where they just didn't get it done because they weren't very smart, and then they didn't have the work ethic. You don't have that here. And then when you don't have that problem, that's just one or two less things that you have to worry about. And those are big issues, right? If you have to stay on top of someone like Kyler Murray to watch game film, that's a problem, right? If you have to get on someone to kind of check out his diet because he's eating in and out all the time down the street, that's a problem. Or going to Nacho Daddy, that's a problem. But if he's doing the right things, eating his whey protein, having the BCAAs, doing the post-recovery therapy that he's supposed to be doing, getting his lifts in the morning, going to the team meetings with a game plan, knowing what questions to ask the coaches when they get a homework assignment, just like all of you guys, and then they go in and say, okay, so what did we learn? How can we learn? And then, let's look at the game film from Sunday. Okay, on the Monday, okay, this is what you did bad. This is what you did well. What do you need to do here? What were you thinking? What was your thought process on this play as the play was unfolding? So again, I don't see that being an issue with this draft class. I think GM Dave Ziegler, again, goes back to the scouting department. They did a really good job in bringing in the players who fit their cultural identity, and GM Dave Ziegler talked about that. So again, this is why I'm high on the team moving forward, because again, I think the right pieces are in place for them to succeed. And again, an empire wasn't built overnight. So that's all I got to say about that. Daniel can say, what's your analysis of Holland versus Merrick, short-term and long-term? Who do you think is better? That's a great question. If you're talking about, I don't know if it's a typo. Are you talking about the two safeties, or are you talking about Mac Hollins? I don't know if I think you're talking about the two safeties. That's a good question. I think it's a toss-up, to be honest with you. I think it's a toss-up if you're talking about safety play. I think it's a toss-up between those two. And the reason I say Javon Holland is because Javon Holland, he can get his hands on the ball and make interceptions. Trayvon Merrick, he can too. But if I had to take a guess, I kind of want to say, and that's just me being, what's the word? It's not biased, because Javon Holland is from, obviously, the Bay Area, right? He's from Bishop O'Dowd, so he's from Oakland, Bay Area rooted. But no, I think Javon Holland's a slightly better player, but then that's not to say that Trayvon Merrick won't be better long-term. So I'm going to reserve that because it's kind of hard to tell right now. Javon Holland, if I remember correctly, he had 2 interceptions last year. And so I think he was really coming on, in my grading system, actually graded pretty well. But when you take 2 and 2 together, and then I look at guys like Trayvon Merrick, who I see in practice, if I had to roll the dice on one or the other, I would say it's a coin flip at this point. Raiders, should we have protected Tyron Johnson from my man, Fast Johnson? You guys remember why I asked him to describe his game in one word, and my guy said fast. He said that the coaches say I'm fast. So it's Fast Johnson. Fast Johnson from being signed. We now need another speedy receiver in case of injury. Yeah, it's one of those things, again, another one of those things where it's kind of like, looking back, maybe. But then again, how many wide receivers out there are also fast that you can kind of bring in? So yeah, I would have liked them to sign Tyron Johnson or kept them on the roster, obviously. But Charles Woodson even tweeted out, I was like, who was number 1? I was like, I tweeted him out. I was like, hey, that's Tyron Johnson. And obviously Charles Woodson sees something in Tyron Johnson. You wouldn't be putting out that tweet. So yeah, it is interesting that Tyron Johnson is gone. But then again, it just so happens that, yeah, speedy wide receivers. Again, you can find speedy wide receivers in off the waiver wire. But again, how many Tyron Johnsons? I like Tyron Johnson. I thought he would be at least a special teams ace, especially as a team's gunner. I pointed this out during training camp that he was just shining and doing really well throughout training camp on special teams. And I talked about Tyron Johnson when I interviewed him in the locker room and on game days. And I said, you know what, like, talk about special teams, man. This is something I see in your game. He's like, I take pride in special teams because when you're the fourth, fifth, sixth wide receiver, you have to make a splash whenever you can because the sample size to pull from playing wide receivers is limited. So I try to make my point on special teams. So yeah, it does sting a little bit, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. All right. Let's see. We got a lot of questions. Daniel Kim said, when Devontae said that teams are running different coverages to cover the wide receivers than being shown on film and rolling things differently, what do we do? Well, that is a good question. And again, if you're watching it, I'm going to answer this question. But before I do, give this video a thumbs up. There's 28 of you guys watching this live stream. It would do me a solid if you guys did that. Also, if you'd like to donate to the BEASTwriter family in the DOB, you guys can do so. And I'll put up the banner here. Just send me a super chat or super sticker. It'd be greatly appreciated as we are almost hitting the 2-hour mark. All right. And all funds go back to the DOB. We are running cool giveaways for all you guys. And also, I want to take a road trip once we get enough money in the DOB family to go on that road trip and cover the team as you all come to love my coverage. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching. All right. So Raiders says, Daniel Kim says, okay, so that's a great question. I don't know what you do because if you're seeing something on film and then they switch it up because obviously they know you're watching that on film, then it's a game of reverse psychology. I think it's like preparing for a quarterback you really had no sample size to pull from. Like, for instance, if you're going up against a backup quarterback, right? Like PJ Walker, right? For instance, and you're like, damn, man, like that's a third string quarterback. I have no idea. Yeah, I know based on college, I know they'll kind of probably simplify the game plan a little bit, but we don't know what the hell we're going to do with him because like there's not enough sample size to pull from. Yeah, they might run the zone read here and there, maybe a wildcat, maybe do some trick plays, but we don't even know what those trick plays are. We don't even know what this guy's capable of doing because back at Temple, he did this, and back in NFL, the small sample size that to pull from, then you have to go back to the dirty archives, and then they'll do something totally different on game day. Like, it's crazy. So I don't know how to answer that question. Luckily, I don't get paid millions of dollars to do that. I think it's a tough situation from every coach's vantage point when you have to kind of game plan. And I think that's the frustrating part is, you throughout the week, you prepare. Okay, if you see this cover shell, this is what you do. If you see this is the rules of engagement that apply. If you run a trips formation to the right and then you see, well, I'm not going to break off the tells, but if you see a linebacker on one team going like this, and then that relates to the third level and that safety is going like this, that means they're doing what? Odds are they're accounting for that trips formation off the rub route, right? So you want to have that boundary cornerback playing off coverage because you don't want to get rubbed. I'm not going to name the team, but they need to switch that up because I'm seeing it. They haven't changed it. It was crazy. Or you can see coaches on the sideline do this. What does that mean? It's a two-man game. That's a stun or twist. I'm not going to name the team. I'm just saying, happens. They still haven't switched it up. But if I'm seeing it, people are seeing it. Scouts are seeing it. Coaches are seeing it. But when it comes to doing things that are the unknown, that's the scariest thing ever because now it's frustrating because, like, damn, throughout all practice, we've been practicing one way, teaching things one way, teaching the rules of engagement this way, and all of a sudden they do something different. It's like if they're running a cover 2 and now all of a sudden they're running a cover 5, man underneath, oh my gosh. And then it's like, it's simple man, you should beat that coverage. Oh yeah, but we thought it was a cover 2, so then we were just trying to attack the zone how we see how fit, but it was a cover 5. Oh, okay. So then you go back on the next drive, they're like, okay, well, they're probably going to run a cover 5, and then they roll in a cover 2, and you're like, okay, now we're confused again because I don't know. That's a catch-20. It's really tough. I'm just lucky I don't get paid the millions of dollars to make those decisions and try to make those halftime adjustments or in-game adjustments. It's tough. It is very, very tough. Raider says, why is Hunter Renfrow not the same playmaker he has always been? We are asking Hunter to run deeper routes this year, which neutralizes Hunter's quickness. I don't know the answer to that. I already went on record saying this, and it's not looking very strong. He's been injured with a concussion. We all know the injury he suffered week 2 against the Arizona Cardinals. But I will say this. I already went on record saying that it's not going to happen, obviously, because it's Devontae Adams. I already went on record saying that Hunter Renfrow would lead the team in catches and receiving yards and possibly touchdowns. Obviously, that has not happened. What happened? I don't know what happened. That's a question for Coach McDaniels. But I think if I were to ask Coach McDaniels, say, hey, Coach, Hunter Renfrow is not looking the same that he was pre-injury. What have you seen from him? And I guarantee his response where the defenses are really keying in on him, and that's forcing Derek Carr to look elsewhere in his progression chart. And so when he does that just kind of leaves other guys opportunities. And so that's just kind of how the game unfolded. Guarantee that's the kind of type of answer you'll get from him. He's not going to be like, oh, well, let me tell you something, BEASTwriter. Like, we're doing like, no, that'd be stupid. Like, that'd be dumb. Let me just tell you the playbook. Let me just tell you what happened on this play. Like, no. But no, getting back to Hunter Renfrow, I thought he would have a bigger year. And that is one Beast receipt that did not check out. Come on, Hunter Renfrow. I know you have it in you. You're on my fantasy team, damn it. Raider says, do you think Mark Davis is partly responsible? I love Hunter Renfrow, by the way. Good guy. Do you think Mark Davis is partly responsible for a lot of our 3-year contracts, which will prevent any GM or head coach from creating long-term harm to our organization? I don't think so. I think that's kind of like too far out there. I don't think so. All right. You also ask, is Rock Yassin too slow for speedy receivers? Rock plays a lot of off coverage, which telegraphs our coverage to our opponents. I think Rock Yassin's fine. I don't think he's too slow. In fact, in my grading system, he's played very well. Just broke down the numbers for you there. Now, he did give up 4 first downs the last game. So, again, it's kind of like a game of poker. You don't remember the solid wins throughout the nature of the game. If you're playing in the tournament, you always remember the bad beats because those are the ones that you remember most. And you can get rivered. You can get screwed over on 4th Street or what the case may be. Not necessarily the flop. So again, when you look at that sample size to pull from, I think Rock Yassin's having a hell of a year. Again, graded at a Pro Bowl level. So I don't think he's too slow. I think he's fine. I think he's playing really well. And in fact, if you were to tell me or ask me who's having the best year of all the boundary quarterbacks this year, I would say Rock Yassin, hands down. I think Rock Yassin is one of those guys that's very underrated, and he's doing very well in Coach Graham's system. So there you have it. But all right, I think I'm going to wrap up this live stream. We're about 2 hours in, and I got to watch more film, and it's already 8 p.m. I have yet to eat my dinner yet. So again, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. Just be sure to turn on the bell notification so you get notified when I go live and when I upload content. Also, give this video a thumbs up. If you do that, it will be a recommended video to others who like the channel as well and like common interest like the Raider Nation. So again, do me a solid, just give it a thumbs up. We are running more giveaways. The giveaway will be released on Monday, so be sure to subscribe to all my social media platforms here on YouTube. It's in the description box below. I am on YouTube, I am on Twitter, I am on Instagram at BEASTwriter, and then you can also follow me on Facebook. I have a private Facebook group and a public Facebook page at Dark Side of BEASTwriter. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun on this wacky Wednesday. There was a lot to talk about when it came to GM Dave Ziegler. And again, already on the record, I think it's a top 5 GM, and he's going to be GM of the year in 2 to 3 years' time. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And I hope you have a very good night as we wrap up this show. Stay tuned for the next one. I should be hopping on the live stream tomorrow talking about whatever it is you guys got. So if you have questions, I got answers. Just go ahead and shoot those over to me. Take care. Have a good night. BEASTwriter out.